Hey everybody, just a really quick video check-in here. As we finish up the week, it's Friday, so yesterday was the due date for essay number 1. And we have a fairly quick turnaround for unit number 8, which is due Thursday the 21st, so instead of our week, or I guess because the essay was due in a week, it's not as fast as it would normally be. So we're back to our regular schedule after Unit 8, I should say. But anyway, so Thursday, April 21st, Unit 8 is due. And so as you can see, it's a revision of essay number 1, which you've just turned in. And primarily the revision is focused on obviously correcting some mistakes or doing, in some cases, some major revising if there were some more serious issues with essay number 1, but part of this revision involves you integrating a secondary source. So we kind of return to the more research-oriented approach that we've been looking at up to this point. So you have two sort of things going on as far as this revision goes. And actually, I'll say this at the start, it's good to think of revision not just as editing, but as a revision or re-seeing of the essay. So there really is the opportunity for some bigger, more fundamental changes, if those are necessary, than just correcting basic like typos or grammar mistakes or punctuation errors or little formatting things and that kind of stuff. And obviously you're wanting to re-see the essay in terms of integrating a secondary source. So one of the things that you want to be really careful of doing, and the way this is set up sort of invites this mistake in some ways, is because you're working with a full and complete essay already, you may be tempted to just have your secondary source, your database article or whatever it is, and just tack on, a quotation from the source at the end of every body paragraph. And you really, you don't want to do that. You want to really integrate the secondary source as part of the discussion. And so again, think of kind of the shape of a body paragraph or the component parts as always a topic sentence, maybe a couple of sentences to kind of lay out an idea for that paragraph. Then we go move to details from the primary text, so the short story that you're discussing, so direct quotation, and then integration of secondary material, secondary sources. And depending on the paragraph, you may then sort of continue or transition into other examples from the primary text or secondary material, and then obviously a kind of conclusion or probably more a transition in that body paragraph into the next body paragraph. So you can see that secondary sources are always secondary to an idea you lay out and then support or details from the primary text, but it doesn't mean that you can just tack something on to the end of every body paragraph and have that be successfully kind of integrated secondary source. So again, we're looking for kind of the way that you manage the general, those topic ideas, and then the specific, the details, and of course the supporting material from your source. The other thing to stress then again is as we look for secondary sources, to be sure that you are using appropriate sources as far as collections of articles. So always looking at those databases. Probably McGill's on Literature is going to be a good one, and the Literature Resource Center database, both through the COD library. So those are appropriate places to look. And then the kind of source you're looking for is again that direct discussion of the particular primary source that you've written about. So if you did Alice Munro's Boys and Girls, for example, you're going to find in, let's say, McGill's on Literature, an article or a secondary source that is a direct discussion of that short story. So you're not going to go into the Journal of Pediatrics or Child Development or Child Psychology and discuss in some random or sort of vaguely related way notions of child development or gender roles and that kind of thing. You really are looking for a really particular focused discussion on the primary text that you've found, and again drawing from databases rather than just general web stuff. So like I said in the past, this is really easy, and there's just no kind of gray area here. So if you end up using just general web stuff or some completely unrelated, tangential kind of source, that's going to have a really serious impact on your grade, particularly for this second essay, this revision, because the major part of what I regrade here is not necessarily the essay itself, but really highlighting that the source that you find, obviously using documentation correctly in the text of your essay, integrating it smoothly, and then of course adding that entry to your works cited. So just about everybody will now have two entries for the works cited, the short story, and then of course the article database that you find. So pretty straightforward. So again, I've mentioned a version of this before. The downside is that this aspect, this kind of research component of the class, is really overemphasized because it's such a core kind of skill that we want to learn. So the glass half empty version is, if you screw this up, it does have a major impact on your grade. The glass half full is that doing it right, which is just a matter of following the models and examples here. It's not rocket science by any means. Can have an impact positively on your grade. So just getting that basic stuff correct already kind of puts you in the B and possible A category. So you can use that to your advantage rather than letting it take a sort of negative toll on your grade. So the last thing I want to mention is that you will have your essay grade back for essay number 1, but I also send the file back. So in addition to maybe some comments, sort of general comments that I'll make when I return the grade, which you'll see in the grade book or your My Grades area. In addition to maybe some general comments, you want to also look through really carefully that document, because I will have maybe highlighted some areas. I'll use square brackets to put in some questions or comments, or maybe make suggestions, ask some questions, or suggest some possible revision strategies and that kind of thing. So you really want to obviously read those carefully, and if you end up using the same document, that essay 1 document, to begin your revision for essay number 2, you really want to be careful to get all of that material out of there by the time you're completing that document and handing it in as essay number 2. So you may use the same file, but for most people there's going to be some fairly substantial revision, even if there's not a lot of changes in the text that's existing to make. There's obviously going to be changes as far as integrating the source throughout and smoothly, and kind of building another layer of the essay, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, so lots of work to be done then. You have the week before we start our slightly quicker turnaround. As always, be in touch with me, especially now that you have some pretty substantial feedback based on essay number 1. The absolute worst case scenario is not that you made some major mistakes for essay 1, because honestly the serious point value is really in the final essay. So the worst case scenario is not that you've kind of screwed essay 1 up if you did make some major mistakes, but that you don't get those corrected for future writing assignments, whether it's essay 2 or really the final essay for the course, which is where the serious point value is. So if you have questions, or some comments that I've made in the text don't make a lot of sense, or you just want to verify that you do have the correct formatting, or the correct maybe wording that I've suggested, or you just have basic questions, by all means be in touch, and I'll talk with everybody soon.